So this is my hindsight review of Logan. Great film. If you haven't seen it, why haven't you seen it? Everyone's seen it. It's good. It's brilliant. It's not really... I would say it's one of the best superhero films, but it's not really a superhero film. And that's maybe why it's so good, and that's the current trend. Yes, I'll be looking at this film in hindsight, as in ways to improve it, if it could be improved. Because you know, when you go and see a film, you think, would it have been better if this happened? So that's basically what I'm doing. But could it be improved with a few simple changes, or could it be changed with big changes?
Of time, very much like you. The feeling.
I still don't know if I like this film or not. It's a good film, I know that, but it's also in confliction with, I want an uplifting experience. When you go to see a superhero film, you want to it makes you feel good. It's an escapism, hyper-reality. So when you see a superhero film that's pessimistic and quite downbeat, it's kind of conflicting. It's enjoyable, but also uncomfortable. So which side would I prefer to see? An uplifting film or a realistic one that makes me a bit sad? A part of you dies with this film. You grow up with the characters for the last 20 years and they save the day. It makes you feel good. So in this film it's uncomfortable. Wolverine is in pain, he's old. You want Xavier to do one last redemption and save the day, or really make a big spectacle of his powers like he's done in previous films. You've finished watching this film for the first time, you kind of feel really sad that the characters you've grown up with that always survive and always do well are dead, and they didn't have much redemption. So would I want it to be the opposite? Would I want Logan to be alive in this film? You wouldn't really want him to survive. If he survived, his storyline throughout the films over the last 10 or 20 years, it's been exhausted. We don't really want to see him in another film because it'd be disappointing. His story's done. There's nowhere really else to go with his character. So in a way, I wanted him to finish this story as well. It's satisfying to finish a story in a good way, and this Logan film does it. I mean, a big part of me wanted the other X-Men characters to come in and save the day, or have a role and do something spectacular. Films that are failing at the moment in the superhero genre are ones that are still relying on old traditions of them saving the day and no real risk of danger. So in this film, you do have a sense that anyone could die, and they're all hurting and they're suffering, and that's part of the real grittiness that's established. So if you take that away, it becomes a bland superhero film. But realism in film makes you feel it more. If it's something real, you feel it. I mean, how many times do you watch a film where it loses the context and you get completely uninterested, and you're not involved, you forget about it the next day? With this, you can't forget about it because it's made you experience something. And if a film makes you experience something quite emotional, it stays with you. And that's the whole point of a film, is to make you experience something. So let's change the scenario. Just imagine throughout the film, Logan wasn't in pain, or he saved the day, and he survived, and Xavier did a spectacular mind trick. You'd probably feel more cheated by that than what actually happened in the film. Even though it's uncomfortable to watch, and you walk out of the film feeling a bit depressed. In a film like this, they bring you down with the characters to make you feel a bit depressed, so they can raise you up again. So that's the whole part of the experience of watching a film, is the highs and lows. So you have to judge each film you see based on the reality it creates within itself. So the plot holes are when things don't make sense, are based on its own reality that it creates. So the things I would change about Logan, when they're on the road and travelling and they find that family that they stay with, they wouldn't stay with a family. If they're on the run, brutal assassins are after them, just on their heels. You wouldn't go stay with an innocent family and put them in danger. You just wouldn't. I know it makes sense to the plot because Xavier wants to show Logan how family life and it can be. I get that point, but Logan and Xavier would not put a family in danger just so they can stay at night and enjoy some family life and escape. Also, And Xavier didn't have his swan song at the end, he just kind of died. Whereas Logan got his swan song where he did something heroic and incredible. Xavier just kind of died. As a fan, I would have liked to have seen him do one last brilliant superpower trick or something like that, just to redeem himself and all the suffering and all the uncomfortableness that he's put the viewer through in this film. I mean, some of the things I would change that can't be changed because Sony's interpretation of Marvel films, the timelines, and especially in the Wolverine films, are all over the place. They don't make sense. If you try and plot the points from all the films, none of it makes sense. Of course, because it's a Sony strand of Marvel, they don't have the rights to the characters and the storylines and things like that. So they had to make it very insular of a film, which is to its merit in some points. But sometimes you just wish that there were characters in there that you've grown up and familiar with, the X-Men, you know, if Cyclops came in or some of the others. You really think that would be like, wow. But maybe it wouldn't fit with this film anyway, I'm not sure. You always want your heroes to do well and actually save the day. And that's the formula that's been tried and tested since Superman. So to have a film where that's not really happening is uncomfortable. And would I change it? I'm not sure I would. At some points I would like to see some redemption. Like Logan, throughout the film, he isn't a superhero. He's quite selfish. He only looks after himself and Xavier. The rest doesn't matter. He just throws them away. And that does happen in the film. But Logan does have his swan song at the end, where I really wanted Xavier to have his moment. I mean, all he does in the film is he's trying to deal with his illness and his breakdown of his mind. And the only redemption he really does is to save some horses from galloping into a road, which was a bit soft. And before his death, you wanted him to do something heroic, that one last time. All the things he's done in all the films and all the comics and everything, he's been incredible. You just want him to do that one last thing before he goes. I suppose in a way he does save Logan and the child because he's offering moral guidance. That's not really what you want to see. I mean, it's very brutal and gritty and quite uncomfortable viewing as well, and that's the whole point of it, I get it. Some films I can just watch over and over again. I can't watch Logan over and over again. Another plot point that I would possibly change is that the only person that can defeat Logan is Logan. So they have to clone him and bring him back. When I first seen that in the cinema, I thought, Logan was fighting Logan. I just thought it felt a bit cheap. So the DVD, interestingly, comes with the black and white version, which is really quite unique. I think the fans were asking for it, and so they did it. It is interesting. I've watched it in black and white, well, bits of it. Some of it is really good in black and white. When the close-ups on the characters and some of the light and dark, black and white obviously makes the most of that. It looks incredible. But then on the wider shots and some of the other scenes, black and white doesn't really work. I think that's where colour comes into its own, and you do a lot more with colour than black and white. So for me, if they changed 3 points of it, if they changed the bit where they go to see the family, they got rid of that. If they gave Xavier a spectacular ending to his story with superpowers, and if they made it less dystopian, only a bit, just to add it more context in our reality or in the rest of the X-Men films we know, it would be one of the most brilliant films I've ever seen. I think it'd be a masterpiece.